Legislature back in session. Colleagues, we're going to be returning to Bill 49-38 COR. The last one, Senator Duenas, you still have the floor with regard to, I guess, an inquiry. And there was, I remember there was an amendment that was proffered, and that's where the discussion, so this is your discussion on the amendment, Senator Duenas. You still have your main discussion available, okay?
Yes,
right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me, and I appreciate that because I do want to speak on the main motion as well. First of all, thank you for the recess to confer with Guam's premier subject matter expert, Director Joe Bora, on this issue and the disposition of Section 6 and the amendment pending. So I also was able to speak with the committee members or committee staff and find out where the thinking was here. So first and foremost, with the issue of the letter that was written in terms of existing lot 273 and the 258, which is owned by the government and was unregistered, the survey was completed, and that's what we're trying to do here, is do the consolidation for the purposes of property that can be used, expanding the cemetery. The thinking behind the markup was, if you go back to the committee report, you'll find that there were questions from members of the legislature on why this property, why not contiguous properties or other properties. And you can see, Mr. Speaker, that in my research, there are 3 contiguous property owners. One is a private owner, so that's off the table unless the government deals with the private owner. The other is the government of Guam, and the other is federal government, I believe, Fish and Wildlife. So there's a potentiality of what was discussed, other properties, in the event that this doesn't work out the way that it was designed under what's trying to be accomplished here. Of course, that would require more work, but it's government of Guam, and I would think that we would take property back from the federal government if they wanted to give it back to us. The purpose, I guess we'll have to talk about that again. So because I was concerned more than anything else in terms of the 2 sections, will they still be operative? And this was simply an opportunity because of the public hearing to expand options. But the foregoing, which is the Section 4 and Section 3, are still durable, and that action will take place if this bill is passed, pending any other possible amendments to those sections. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm clear, Mr. Speaker, that it was an option that was put on the table. Whatever the disposition of it is, it'll be what it is, and I defer to the individual senator, the ranking member, if she wants to continue to object. But my inquiry has been satisfied. If we pass the bill as is with those sections, we still have the opportunity to expand the property for usable property for the purpose of interning those who have financial need and DPR to carry out that mission. With that, I yield this time, and then would like to speak on the main motion with the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome. Ranking member, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again for allowing us the opportunity so that we can speak to the subject matter experts. And at this time, based on the proposed amendment, I will remove my objection. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Speaker, sir, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I have no objection with the withdrawal of the objection. After we spoke with the committee and the subject matter expert again, it was to give the opportunity for them to have options should one not be able to be available or further expansion later. But being that the author has no objections to it, then we're fine as the committee.
So let me be clear. There is no objection to the amendment to remove Section 6. Is that what we're, all right? Okay. On the amendment, okay, to delete Section 6, again, there is no objection. The objection has been withdrawn. General Lady from Barragata, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this amendment, and I'm glad that it seems like we've reached a consensus in this body as far as not objecting to this amendment. So in the public hearing, it was stated there was only 8 plots left, and so time is of the essence that we move forward to ensure that this property is duly transferred, because although it was transferred it was conveyed to DPR, we're not sure how it was conveyed without any public law to allow for that. And so, yeah, in regards to striking out this section, I think it's prudent because for the reason that we do have laws in place that require before any land is transferred, subleased, what have you, that it comes to the legislature. So I appreciate that. The very important thing about what was testified earlier in the letter from Director Angel Sablan shows that 258 is probably the one that could be expedited the quickest. In the letter, it pointed out that survey has been completed. There's already, SHPO has already cleared it of any historic concerns. And so that in itself can take years. And so if we're looking to expedite expanding Lot 273 or expanding the Teaguac Cemetery, Lot 258 is the most viable one. And I guess the question I have too, in the public hearing, there was a question as far as land registration. And so when this hearing took place, it was not filed, although there was a request, all the surveying had been done a year prior. So this is a question for the proffer of the bill. If she can provide the status of the land registration.
Okay, before you do that, we are on the amendment, but I'm just concerned that how would that answer affect the amendment itself?
I can withhold that question till after. But I do rise in support of this, the amendment to strike this section.
Okay.
Just
Okay, so she's withdrawing.
I can do it as a point of information. Oh, you want to work the motion first, sir?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So let's dispose of the amendment first, okay? And then we can go, I can
I'll
go
do the
back.
point of information after.
And then you can provide us point of information. How's that, Senator
Sounds great.
Perez? Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, on the amendment to delete section 6. Any other senators wishing to speak? No other senators? Senator Talai, you want to close? There is no objection to your amendment, ma'am. Okay. There is no objection to the amendment. Okay. No objection, so ordered. You want to go ahead and address the concern?
On the point of information,
She still has the floor, but if you want to point of information, I'll permit you to do that, and then we'll go back.
Thank you. It's just noted that from the Director of Land Management that both lots 273 and 258 have been sent to the Office of the Attorney General for land registration, and it's in its process right now.
Thank you.
But
thank
we
you.
still need the bill to follow through.
Understood. Senator Talai, ma'am, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to raise a point of information, inquiry that, remember the report that they said, or the plan that they had sent to us? Still can't find it on messages and comms.
Because we never received it.
So is that confirmed? Can I ask the author to yield? Do we have a
Please.
plan from Department of Parks and
My
Rec?
office has checked, and we had never received it.
Again, Mr. Speaker, based on information received from the Department of Parks and Recreation, the documents said were sent on June 30th. If it's not there, I did give it to the oversight chair this morning and to you. I yielded the necessary documentation that that Department of Parks and Recs did forward to me this morning. So it's with the oversight committee and yours via WhatsApp, sir.
Let's take a 1-minute recess. Legislature's back from recess. Senator Lai, ma'am, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I did receive from you on my WhatsApp a page by page of the plan. It looks like a plan for Lot 273, how to use the currently deemed unusable portions of that property, which would give them 14 acres more to use, it looks like. So I feel like if we have had that during the public hearing, we might have questioned the need for 258. But regardless, we'll proceed. I hope that they will use that plan and use the remainder of Lot 273, which is the current Tiguac Cemetery, and use it efficiently. In the plan, it shows they're supposed to build crypts. They're supposed to make that unusable area usable. So I hope that they will do that. Going further with the bill to give an additional lot, 258, which is 11 plus acres, to Department of Parks and Rec, so they can expand the cemetery even more. I would like to amend that bill to ensure that they're going to prioritize the construction of crypts. Again, this is because we don't have a plan in front of us, and it looks like they've been allowing plots of all different sizes and shapes and all kinds of things, and I think the more efficient thing to do is what we have had to do with limited land at the Veterans Cemetery, limited land at all the other cemeteries, limited land at Malesu, is force the construction of crypts and burial that way. So my amendment says, lines 20 to 23, page 2, it says, and shall include the construction of crypts. I'd just like to amend this right now verbally to say, and shall prioritize the construction of crypts.
Can you repeat where that's going to be at?
Yes, it's at lines 20 to 23, page 2. My amendment was to include the words, and shall include the construction of crypts, and I would just want to change the word include to say prioritize, and shall prioritize the construction of crypts. If the clerk has that, then I'd like to proceed with, and shall prioritize the construction of crypts.
Page 2, line 22.
Yes, line, yeah, yes. So after Vicente A. Limtiaco Memorial Park, it should say, and shall prioritize the construction of crypts, and shall not be utilized for any other program or duty under the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so page 2, line 22, after A. Limtiaco Memorial Park, and shall prioritize the construction of crypts, and shall not be utilized for any other program or duty under the Department of Parks and Recreation. Am I correct?
Yes. I do mean this to be instead of in-ground burials. I didn't say that straight out, but again, we have to hope that they can get the gist and that they will honor this, knowing that they are receiving public land that is scarce for this purpose, and that we are expecting them, even without a plan given to us, to use this efficiently and in the best way possible. So they did list in their letter to us, Mr. Speaker, priorities of, they want this land and they want to get federal funding. I don't think they've gotten any federal funding so far, but they're promising they're going to try again for federal funding. For infrastructure, roads, improved visitor access, parking, new signage, installed pathways, burial sections, and the construction of condo crypts, visitor amenities, operational and administrative support, buildings, small maintenance facility, administration office, equipment and technology. And I'm saying, please prioritize the construction of the crypts before any of these other things, because that's what we are in an emergency for, right? The crisis is we need places to bury with dignity.
On the amendment, we're doing this without paperwork. It's going to be on page 2, line 22. After Alim Tiaco Memorial Park, comma, the words "and shall prioritize the construction of crypts." And then it'll continue on. Any discussion on the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment? No discussion on the amendment? Any objection to the amendment? Any objection to the amendment? No objection to the amendment? Senator, you want? Okay, you know.
Yield closing.
Okay, yield closing. No objection, so ordered. Senator Talai, you still have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. And I recognize the need to expand the current cemetery. I do believe that we can, while authorizing an expansion, demand of them plans, demand of them accountability. I don't believe the bill does that sufficiently, especially since they claim to have been working on this for the last 2 years. They've already completed their surveys, they've already completed archaeological surveys, but they couldn't give to us a plan for the use of 11 plus acres. This is 11 acres. I'm trying to get information on how big our veteran cemetery is. This is a huge amount of land. So I just think, I don't want them to waste it, and I don't want them to think we don't care about the maintenance up there and that we think that that is acceptable. I think we as a legislature should enforce them what we asked for in the public hearing, what the president of the Mayor's Council asked for in the public hearing, some type of accountability from the current caretakers that they agree that the current standards aren't good enough, that to be buried with dignity, our people deserve better. That's in fact the words that he used. Our people deserve better. I don't think this bill's demanding better. It's saying, despite what you have done, we're going to give you all this extra land. Do whatever you want. So that's really my only concerns with the bill. I'm disappointed that after the public hearing, we can't get more. We're acting for a plan, and I think that's very reasonable. And I can't imagine why they can't come up with a plan after 2 years of planning to use Lot 258. And now they want us to trust them that they're going to come up with one before they start saying, oh, we're desperate and we need to start putting people all over the place on this new lot. I'm sure you can agree, Mr. Speaker, we don't use property that way, and that's not the most efficient way to do it. We need to even have plans for the easement, which were ignored in the current cemetery. That's a problem. So again, I thank the sponsor for the bill. I totally agree with the intent. I agree with the transfer of the lot, but I think it should be contingent on getting more from the Department of Parks and Rec to assure the people of Guam that they're going to do what we expect for them to do. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, ma'am. On the bill as amended, gentleman from Tamuning, sir, you recognize.
Mr. Speaker, and I rise in support of Bill 4938. And I want to say I concur on the concerns by the President of the Mayor's Council and our good friend, Mayor Halleck. You know, we have to continue to have standards, no question about it. And, you know, that's an issue. And I concur that he brings to the attention that, you know, while moving on to expand, you know, we really should be accountable for the property that we have in the inventory and moving forward. I agree with that. And I think that's a sensible thing. I think most people do agree with that. But, Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this bill nonetheless, simply because it is inevitable, and we know that, in terms of the usable land surrounding this particular resting place. Mr. Speaker, also to expand on my discussions once again with the committee as well as Director Borja, the real operative of Section 4 as well is certificate of title. And we know that before you get certificate of title, you need to identify your land area. You need a survey. And you also need the proper, registration, right? So that's what's happening now. And this is really to codify all of that and to end up getting to title so they can move on with this plan. Mr. Speaker, I also remember in the 36th and I believe even the 37th to a certain extent, we've known about this now for years. And we had roundtables, Mr. Speaker. We had roundtables where GIGO has been contemplated, acres and acres in GIGO. And it's true. I'm glad we have this operative of demanding to have cribs. Because even agate was on the table, Mr. Speaker, acres and acres in agate. And I'm not surprised by that because when I was the Director of Land Management, even as back as far as 2010, that has always been on the table. Land management has been out there looking at properties. They've been registering land in agate by the hundreds of acres. Umatic and other places. Land registration is ongoing. So for this situation on the 11 plus acres, it really is because we've never moved. We've never had a bill before us for the other contemplated areas. Yet we know in our population, there is a lot of indigent individuals when it comes to laying to rest our loved ones. It's an expensive proposition. I know one of our members in this body and what their family goes through when people approach them in their most bereaved time. And that's the biggest consideration most of the time. Do we have the money? Do we have the place? Because many people don't have that kind of consideration, Mr. Speaker. So this right now, on top of, yes, we found out that they can continue and the footprint that they have. But this right now is the only real solution on the table for the future going forward. Not the round tables that we had before, not rolls and rolls of maps that are in shelves and have been digitized at land management and can become a reality down the road. But today, Mr. Speaker, and yes, 11 to 12 acres is a lot of property, no question about it. But considering what we've seen happen already at the current TWEC, and considering what we know to be true of the need, notwithstanding the fact that we have concerns, Mr. Speaker, I think this is just simply the right thing to do. And it looks like everything is in place with the plan going forward, with the information going forward to the Attorney General, and for the final disposition of being able to realize title and move forward. Parks and Rec is going to have to continue to answer for that awesome task that they have in terms of keeping, a dignified resting place. And in terms of the plan going forward, as this bill continues to be expanded and get better. But let's not lose sight of the reality, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, it is the most tangible plan on the table now. And I envision that the contiguous properties, probably down the road, if they're suitable, may consider further expansion. That's for another day. But obviously, if this goes forward, the good majority of that property is going to be used, and hopefully, and we pray, for a dignified resting place for those who have the least of means to give a final honor to those who go before us. Jesus Masi for the opportunity to express some remarks in support of this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. On the bill as amended. Gentle Lady from Tamuning, ma'am, you're recognized.
Sujusmasi, Mr. Speaker. Hope everybody had a nice lunch and refuel so we can get through these bills and have a nice Christmas holiday, right? Mr. Speaker, I have no objection to this bill. I think whatever we can do to help our community, especially in areas as the cemetery in Nimitz Hill, providing a reasonable cost on plots that are available, I think this is something that we should continue to keep an eye on and not wait so long when it comes to, getting additional properties or knowing that we're going to be in need of more land and not wait until the very last minute in doing it. We're already stressed on this particular lot, and then the plan itself, coming to us during session. And before I move forward, I have a question to the author of the legislation, if she should yield.
Can you state your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know that this plan was discussed during the public hearing by somebody else had put this plan together. I believe the deputy director is mentioning that. Oh, well, there's something that was done a long time ago, but he's no longer here. It was almost like someone was doing a favor, for Parks and Rec to create this plan. So my question is this a legitimate plan? Was this done by DPR, or was this done by somebody else? Is this actually a plan certified or reviewed on, or is it just something they found in a drawer somewhere and just threw it our direction?
Would you yield to that?
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, what was given to me and provided to me was the legislation that we've worked with Parks and Rec to answer for them what she's asking. If this was a plan that was pulled out from a drawer, I couldn't tell you that. But the deputy director in the past has worked with me, even in the previous legislature, and I'm just for what it's worth. This is to see how we can expedite the need for additional space so that those burial lots can be opened for those families who cannot afford private cemeteries.
Okay.
Does it answer your question?
Yes, and I thank the author for answering the question because it now tells us that we're not quite sure where this plan came from, who wrote the plan. Is it something that's been sanctioned by DPR or not? But maybe, well, hopefully it's something we don't have to put funding toward because it's almost done. But if you ask me, a plan is longer than 12 pages, moving forward. So I think someone might have an amendment regarding the master plan, so hopefully that amendment will go through too. So I'll just move forward with the amendments that I'd like to proffer. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, additional testimony provided by Department of Land Management dated May 23rd, 2025 shows that the land registration process was initiated for both the original cemetery documents to the OAG, August 14, 2023, and the subject of the lot number 258, docs to the OAG on July 8, 2024, that was brought to our attention. The full registration remains pending at this point, but per Department of Land Management's latest records, they told us that these were still at the AG's office that was brought up earlier, and the amendment to the bill addresses this by allowing the lot swapping. So I appreciate that we are staying within those two footprints of 258 and 273, I believe. So what my amendment, Mr. Speaker, if my colleagues, I hope you have that already, it's page 2, line 24. This amendment I'd like to proffer based on a conversation not only that was brought up during the public hearing by Department of Land Management, but requested that administrative adjudication of the lot be given instead of, outright fee simple. So again, my amendment is, if my colleagues have that, if nobody has it, okay, then I'll continue on, Mr. Speaker. Okay, line 24, page Page 2. And also, by the way, I had an opportunity with a couple of my colleagues, the author of the legislation, as well as yourself, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Duenas, listening to Mr. Borja, and when asked the question about the administrative adjudication, and he says, yes, he would like to have that in there. So my amendment is on Section 3, transfer of property, and it includes administrative adjudication of lot. So that's the part that's incorporated. Administrative jurisdiction, not adjudication, sorry. Administration jurisdiction of, and that's underlined, and then it continues on with lot number 258 in the municipality of People. Then it keeps going, and it is hereby, then we scratched out transferred and put granted. And then you continue on with the Department of Parks and Rec, DPR, and then of course, crossing out pursuant to 21 GCA 60112 has been scratched out. Then, Mr. Speaker, on Section 4, unless you want me to bifurcate this, please.
Let's go ahead and bifurcate it. Let's deal with Section 3 first.
Okay, thank you. So that's my first amendment, and as I mentioned earlier, how we came to this conclusion. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, on the amendment for Section 3, that on page 2, line 24, Section 3, transfer of property. Any discussion? General Lady, Ranking Member from Pago Bay, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this effort, based on the conversation that we had with you and Mr. Bora, and of course the senator, good senator from Magana, it noted that providing the administrative jurisdiction to the Department of Parks and Recs was good until we can give the certificate of title and go through the land process. So as I have no problems with Section 3, I do know that Section 4 gives me a great discomfort of having it deleted. So in this effort, if you're fabricating this amendment as proposed to us in the two sections, on Section 3 and 4, Section 3, I don't have a problem with that being provided, but to also be inclusive of Section 4, because that's what we're working for.
Okay. So there is no problem no objection to Section 3. Gentleman from Tamuning, sir, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker. Yes, and I share the concerns of the retiring speaker. I have no problem with Section 3. True, that's true. I was on the call with Director Bora and his representation. In fact, he mentioned that typically administrative jurisdiction is done by the chief executive. We can codify it legislatively in order to do this, but I think the ultimate goal here is certificate of title. That's superior. And so to me, I have no problem with the Section 3 and the current amended language, but I will object to the crossing out of Section 4. Mr. Speaker.
Okay. On Section 3, not dealing with Section 4, okay? On Section 3, are there any objections to Section 3? The amendments to Section 3? No objections? So ordered. You want to close? Okay, Section 4 now, the deletion of Section 4 in its entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Section 4, after hearing the author of the legislation and her concern with regards to providing title at a later time once it goes through the process, I don't see an issue with this once the title has been through. I mean, then you have, for sure, Department of Parks and Rec will be totally responsible for this property and its maintenance, et cetera. So I'm just going to withdraw the striking out of Section 4.
Okay, so there's the withdrawal of the striking out of Section 4. Okay, no objection, so ordered. Ma'am, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, my next amendment is on, and I'm hoping everyone has this, it's on line 23, page 3, requiring a memorandum of understanding for cemetery maintenance. Has everybody received that yet?
Nope. We don't have that.
Okay, it was sent by my office, and can I have 1 minute?
1 minute recess.
Yeah.
Legislature's back in session. Senator
Thank
Tyree?
you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is on line 23, page 3, to add a new section. And the section is to read, Required Memorandum of Understanding for Cemetery Maintenance. So within 60 days following the enactment of this act, the Department of Parks and Recreation, DPR, and the Department of Public Works and shall execute a memorandum of understanding that clearly delineates the prospective responsibilities of the Department of Parks and Recreation and DPW for the development, operation, maintenance, and care of the Vincent A. Limtiaco Memorial Park Municipality of PD. The MOU shall, at a minimum, provide for A, the allocation of personnel, equipment, and funding for ongoing cemetery maintenance and burials, and B, schedules and standards for ground maintenance, repairs, and improvements. A fully executed copy of the MOU shall be transmitted to the Speaker of the Legislature in Guam and filed with the Legislative Secretary and the Department of Land Management within 10 days of this execution. As we all know, the problems that Parks and Rec is having to maintain some of these cemeteries, to me, it's only fair and right that we get Parks and DPW to assist Parks and Recs. They don't have all the equipment like DPW does. Sometimes they don't have the assistance of individuals to help them when it comes to personnel. And most especially the maintenance of this. We've heard from one of our favorite, Guam's favorite mayor, Mayor Jesse Alec, and how upset he was at the public hearing, wanting us to not even give Parks and Rec this property at all because of their history. But that history came because there was not enough funding at Parks and Rec, there were not enough staff. They don't have the equipment that's needed to maintain the cemeteries. So, Mr. Speaker, this one brings DPW into the mix to allow them to assist Parks and Recreation so that our loved ones who are buried in that area are buried with dignity and respect. And then when the time comes for visitation, it's less stress on that individual visiting their loved one, knowing that they're lying in a place where it's being taken care of. So when they leave, they feel that sense of their loved one who's gone is taken care of. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to please support this amendment. Give a hand up to DPR, a hand up. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Ma'am, on your first paragraph, on the second line, it says after the Department of Public Works and shall execute. Do you want to remove "and" there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, say again?
On your first paragraph, second line, it says, and the Department of Public Works, DPW, and shall. You want to remove "and" from there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Can I just incorporate and have legal make any technical corrections to that effect?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On the amendment, any senators wishing to speak on the amendment? Any objection to the amendment? Hang on. One at a time. Vice Speaker, sir, you had your hand up. You beat them to the punch. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just concerned that within the 60 days following the enactment, as we all know that a lot of things are quite impossible to be accomplished within 60 days, especially when it comes to the delineation of maintenance and operation and maintenance of the Vicente Limtiaco Cemetery. Perhaps maybe a longer time frame would be, I just need if I can, I just need a read this closer again, so you can go ahead and go on to the next colleague of mine, sir.
All right. Gentlelady from Zonia, ma'am, you beat the third one up, so you're next.
Thank you. I support this amendment. I think it's really just asking them to put in writing what they should already know. And if DPW wants to wash its hands of this cemetery, as it has done perhaps, then they should have no problem putting that down in writing. But I'm hoping that this will actually urge them to incorporate a little bit more responsibility of this cemetery, especially after hearing from the mayor of PD, the president of the mayor's council, that the cemetery owns no backhoe. They don't own the equipment to properly maintain this place, and so they do need the assistance of the rest of the government. Right now, they're using, I believe, the backhoe at the Veterans Cemetery to assist with burials, and that they're doing this type of MOU between those two. So this is just to simply ask for DPW to get in the mix. And I think that's perfectly reasonable when we are giving them more land, asking them to expand at their request, giving them more land to expand. And we've seen no plan that DPW can hopefully get their engineers involved if they have one and help them to make a plan for the use of all the land that is available to them in the most efficient way possible. And I think they would be willing to do this if, you know, we are this one government approach to these types of problems. They can help with the planning. Hopefully Parks and Rec can help with the schedules, the standards for ground maintenance, which they should already have in place. So 60 days to me shouldn't be a problem for them for something that, if they don't have that in place, of course, that's why the media is going crazy over the standards up there, and we are, of the standards up there at the cemetery, because we can't see what the standards are. We want to know, what are they holding their contractors to? So I think this is something that everybody should already have in place, and that it's just really putting into it another form, re-putting it in writing, and hopefully gives them another opportunity immediately to talk to each other and confirm that I'll take care of this, don't worry. We are going to handle this. We know we have the backhoes, we can do this part. You know, we can take care of the flooding, we can take care of the easements, and we can take care of whatever. But you, Parks and Rec, are going to take care of this maintenance. And if they can't put that in writing, then I think that's a huge problem. And that's the problem that we're seeing. That's the problem why the mayor's telling us, don't even give them any more land, because they can't maintain what they have. And so I think this is very reasonable, and actually probably the minimum that we can require from them. Thank you.
Thank you. On the amendment, Gentlelady from Pago Bay, ma'am, you have the floor. On the amendment.
Sizus Masi, Mr. Speaker, on this particular amendment, I really did not have a problem. I was thinking that 60 days was probably literally stretching it between the MOU for DPR and DPW, and I was thinking maybe adding more days, like 180 days would be better. So maybe an amendment to the 60 days to 180, if the body is okay with that.
Let's find out. Okay.
Amendment to the amendment, sir. Thank you.
There's a proposed amendment to the amendment to change out 60 to 180 days. Gentlelady from Tamuning, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have no objections to that at this point. I would, well, maybe how about 120 days? That's like double the 60, but 120 days? Is that okay?
Hang on. Wait. Speak
Okay.
speak to the front.
So sorry.
Speak to the front.
Okay.
Okay?
If you give us 1 minute, and but I have no objection to extending it. I understand the circumstances and the situation we're in, and believe that this changing the time is a great compromise. And I don't want to see anybody fail. For us to put a number there and they fail at doing it, that's the last thing I want to see. So I think by extending it, so if you give me 1 minute and I'll talk to the author of that amendment to maybe.
One minute
okay,
recess.
Okay, thanks.
Back from recess, ma'am. From Bungo Bay.
Thank you for giving us the break, Mr. Speaker. In that effort, I will withdraw my amendment for the 180 days and push it down to 120. So I would have to withdraw the 180 first. So on a motion, sir.
On the motion to withdraw 180 days. No objection? So ordered.
To reiterate the motion, Mr. Speaker, 100 from
60 days.
60 days to 120 days.
So on the motion to amend, okay, the time period from 60 days to 120 days. Are there any objection, any discussion? Gentlemen from EPAN, so you're recognized.
It's just Masi, Mr. Speaker. I don't know necessarily if I want to object, but just kind of listening to some of the discussion on this timeline. I think, part of why we're putting in some of this transparency and this accountability is it's this leadership currently at the Department of Parks and Recreation that allowed the maintenance conditions up at Tigua to fester to the point where it was front page news across all of the media outlets. So I don't think we're in the wrong to demand this accountability. And DPR, in their own words, came to us and told us that this was an emergency. This was a crisis, that we were going to run out of places to bury our loved ones in a month if we didn't act on this bill. And so I was kind of scratching my head because a couple sessions went by and we're now discussing the bill 6 months later. But again, I'm just confused because we want to hold our government accountable. We want to set a good standard. But some of our colleagues in here, and I get it. It's 60 days, never going to happen. 180 days, bust that. Might as well make it 180 years. But if DPR comes to us and says it's an emergency, and we as the people's voices here know that these same individuals couldn't even handle the regular maintenance up there at Tigua, whether it was a vendor or not, then I think we should come a little harder on the leadership of Department of Parks and Rec. And tell them if this is an emergency, like you told us, then dot your I's, cross your T's, and let's get it done. So I'm not sure if I support 120 days. I mean, maybe 90 days. I thought 60 days was great. That, 60 days to me in government of Guam talk, that means we mean business. You got 2 months. We're not asking for, implementation upon passage of the bill. And so I support the 60 days. And I just wanted to get up and talk on that. So I object to 120 days, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
There is an objection. Ma'am from Tumuni, gentlelady, you are recognized.
Thank you. On the amendment.
On the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Especially given the current cemetery status on Guam's, it's Guam's only sole affordable public cemetery with only 8, if I'm not mistaken, only 8 lots left as of May 2025. So I can imagine, we all seen the obituary almost daily and how it's constant. It is moving fast. So I appreciate that the amendment, the proffer of the amendment to the amendment decided to, pull it back and go from 180 to at least 120 for a compromise. Of course, I would like it by, in 2 weeks, to put it together. But then again, we can't, set our agencies up to fail. We can push them, light a fire under their feet, make them realize that we mean business. And I think we're doing it here today, letting them know, all agencies, they need to kumbaya and come together and help each other out. I remember one time when we had problems with the schools, we kept trying to get the administration to come and kumbaya and bring everybody together to help these schools get prepared for the beginning of school with meeting their sanitary permits, and it didn't happen. But here we are today. We have an opportunity with this amendment and this bill to request for DPW and DPR to kumbaya, get together, let's make this happen, and bring give peace to our families who have had to lay their loved ones to rest at Nimitz Cemetery. So for the sake of compromise, and I do concur with the previous speaker, I mean, it's business. We need to get this done now. Stop waiting, stop procrastinating. But this is a compromise, I think, in somewhat. But Mr. Speaker and colleagues, it doesn't mean that they have to wait 120 days to get this MOU in place. They can do it in 60 days. They can do it in 30 days. Because if you ask me, DPR is going to run to DPW and saying, look, we need to get into an MOU and we need your help. We need to do it sooner than later. But giving them that deadline is just a deadline. It doesn't mean they can't do this MOU in 30 days. So I have to stand in support of this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. On the amendment to the amendment, there has been an objection. There is an objection. Any other senators wishing to speak on the amendment to the amendment? There has been an objection to the amendment to the amendment. So all those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, moving it from 60 days to 120 days, please indicate by raising your hand. Amendment passes. Senator Tairigui, you still have the floor, ma'am. This is now the amendment as amended.
I think
No, because we were amending her amendment. But we're back on the amendment. There's somebody else wants to speak on the amendment to, ma'am from Bergara, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in looking at this amendment, I support DPW's involvement, especially, looking at the land itself. It seems to be a very water-rich place, and DPW is one of those agencies that we call upon to relieve when there's flooding that occurs. So this is really within their realm of activity and authorization. And also, as was stated in the public hearing, Mayor Alec was concerned about the lack of upkeep of the current cemetery, and to really engage our interagency partners is something I think that's happening more frequently now. I think it's important to leverage our resources within the government, especially when times are tough. And DPW, we really need to bring on these experts who know how to handle situations with flooding, with maintenance, being that they, like was said earlier, that they have the backhoe that's needed for burials. Also, they are the ones that are involved in public buildings. So it's really critical that they are involved in this project. the 120 days, of course, it would be great to have it sooner, but if you think about it, that's 4 months, right? So that would bring us to March. March is roughly around the time when it's dry season. And we really, if we're going to do any type of activity, we definitely want to coincide it with the most opportune time for any type of construction or any kind of, maintenance perhaps. So I do rise in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. On the amendment as amended, are any other senators wishing to speak on the amendment as amended? No other senators? Senator Taitigui, you can close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss, a little bit further on what we can do to assist DPR in putting together, a sound plan, something that will work, and especially the utilization of DPW as this amendment does, because DPW also has engineers. They also have architects too as well. They do a lot of the procurement when it comes to construction. They oversee that in procurement. So this gives DPW, like I said, a hand up, on trying to move forward with the cemetery that has been in disarray for so many years. And not just that, but like I said, architects, engineers are there to assist them, even if they wanted to move forward to start working on this plan that I hope we can get confirmation from, that it is from DPR. But other than that, I thank my colleagues for their support on this amendment.
Thank you. On the amendment as amended, are there any objections? On the amendment as amended, are there any objections? Seeing and hearing, seeing no objections, so ordered. Senator Taitigui.
Thank you, and with that, I yield my time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Gentlelady from Barragata, ma'am, your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do have an amendment to proffer. It's been passed out. It's basically to add a new section to the bill, which states, master plan and funding needs. The Department of Parks and Recreation shall develop and present a master plan and funding needed for its implementation with 1 year upon enactment. So in reviewing the public hearing, there's a big portion of that public hearing was about discussion of this master plan that supposedly exists for the cemetery. And it was supposedly done by a former employee of Department of Land Management. However, there wasn't any production of that plan. The plan that we received today, I believe, is for the current lot, 273, if I'm not mistaken, but not for this additional property, which is 258, which the bill proposes to expand the cemetery to. And so, in listening to the needs of those that testified, it's really critical that we have a plan in place before we ever build anything. I think that's kind of common sense. The other issue that was raised was the funding needs. And so, that is where this body comes into play, that, if we are going to support the expansion of the Teaquak Cemetery, then we also need to put the money where our mouth is, right? So not just transferring of land, but also how much it's going to take, because there's only 8 plots left. And I have 1 year as a placeholder because, I don't know necessarily how quickly this plan is going to materialize. So I am open to changing that. But again, within 1 year, it can be within 4 months. So, if they move rapidly and expedite this, it doesn't have to take 1 year. It could be much quicker. So that's why I left it as a placeholder. But, in responding to the needs of what was stated in the public hearing, I'm proffering this amendment. So I ask for my colleagues for their support.
Okay. 1 minute recess. Who are you going to present the master plan to? Back from recess. Senator Pierce, you have still the floor, man.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, so I left out the part about presenting it to the legislature, so y legislature in Guam. So if I can amend this.
We'll do that. Go ahead and move, okay? Recognize that. So the amendment is amended to present the master plan to the legislature in Guam. Okay?
Right, so yeah, they have to present the master plan and funding needed both to y legislature in Guam.
Okay, so the master plan and the funding needed to the legislature in Guam. So after the word needed to the legislature in Guam.
Correct, yes, thank you.
Okay? Everybody get that? On the amendment as amended, any discussion? Any discussion? No discussion? Senator Parrish?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. So I think what's really critical too, in looking at all the, the debate so far, master plan is definitely critical, funding's needed, but if they can also include how are they going to manage the stormwater, I think that is really critical. We don't want any washouts, and this seems to be a very water-rich area. So just putting that out there to include that in the master plan. So I thank you, thanks to my colleagues for their support in advance.
Thank you. On the amendment as amended, no objection? Any objections? No objections, so ordered. Senator Parrish, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I do support the bill and how it's been amended thus far. I understand the urgency of having to expand the cemetery for our people. And being that a lot of work has already been done, surveying, they've filed the land registration, they've also did the historic properties surveying as well. And so those are all critical elements. Their time, they take a lot of time. And those have already been started. And I think Lot 258 is the best bet thus far as we see. I know in the public hearing, Director Borja mentioned there was a cemetery master plan. And so again, that's something that we need to see. I mean, hopefully in the future we would be able to see that, but for this particular plot, I think it's essential to have this master plan for this particular plot. Yes, and so that's what I would like to bring to the floor. But do I have more time? Okay, yeah, so I would like to also make the motion to append the correspondence from DPR that was provided today. There was also a draft plan, I believe for lot 273, if that can also be appended to the committee report.
We did. And she still had time on the floor. We did dispose of her amendment. Yeah. Yes, we did. I did. Don't worry. No problem. I got it covered. Okay. So do you want to make a motion to append?
To append, yes, the letter we received.
On that motion, are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. Ma'am, you still have 5 minutes and 40 seconds left.
I yield my time. I think I support the bill. Thank you.
Okay, on the bill as amended, any other senators wishing to speak on the bill as amended? No other senators? Gentle Lady Ranking Member, you have the floor to close.
Si Jus Masi, Mr. Speaker, for the discussions that have happened on the floor and of course the amendments to assure that our government entities having to deal with the Tigua Cemetery are in order and the necessary timelines are also included. So I want to thank my colleagues for their support and making this bill better. And I ask that we move this bill and place it onto the third reading voting file. Do I need to read the title or? Okay.
On the motion to place bill number 49-38 COR as amended by the committee and further amended on the floor to the third reading, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Gentlelady from Zonia, ma'am, now you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to place, to make a motion to place Bill 128-38, which is an act to amend Section 6205 of Chapter 6, Title 4, Guam Code Annotated, relative to requiring that copies of petitions for above-step recruitment be posted on the Guam Public Notice website and sent to the Speaker of the Legislature in Guam, and move that that bill be placed onto the second reading file, and I wish to discuss.
It's already
Sorry, to the third reading.
And you can proceed to speak on it.
Susan Masi. So Bill 128, this is pretty much a straightforward bill, but I believe it's very important. It attempts to improve transparency and accountability in government hiring practices by requiring a petition by any agency for above-step hiring, which means hiring at a higher salary than what any other person coming into that position would be receiving. This bill requires that that petition for the above-step hiring be posted on the Guam Public Notice website for 10 days and requires a copy of the above-step petition to be sent to the Speaker of the Legislature 10 days prior to hiring. Sending it to the Speaker would make sure that this is, if it's treated as a messages and communication to the Speaker, recorded as a permanent record of what that agency has done in regards to above-step hiring. This will help all of us, including senators, employees, managers, hiring people in the government, keep track of what's going on in these agencies. Why are we using this provision that allows above-step hiring, and is it correctly justified? So currently, the requirement is that the petition be posted on the agency's website. That's it, for a certain number of days, and then it can be removed from the website, and we can't find it anymore. We can't see what they've done in the past, how many above-step hires they've actually had in the last couple years. So this bill requires also, in addition to sending it to the Guam Public Notice website and to the Speaker, it also requires that semi-annual reports of above-step recruitment attempts be sent to the Speaker of the Legislature. Again, this is for quick summaries by every agency of these above-step hiring. The use of above-step hiring is a tool that was needed and authorized to recruit government employees at higher salaries due to exceptional qualifications, meaning they were very, very overqualified for the job, but we really needed them, and because of recruitment difficulties. And the job at the current salary had been left open for a long period. We used to have this problem with engineers at DPW. Could not get any engineers at the salary set by DPW to come in and work there after a while. So we authorized them these special needs to recruit above step, to be a little bit more competitive for these very exceptional, hard to recruit positions. But there's a fine balance between leveraging this tool for legitimate reasons and abusing it to hire people at higher rates than justified. Publication helps fellow applicants for the same positions and those other similarly employed employees in these agencies. It allows OPA and it allows senators and it allows HR personnel at all the agencies to see the basis of the justification that one agency is using. They're supposed to prove that they had a hard time to recruit. They're supposed to say how long they've had this position open, how they advertise it, the effort they put into recruiting, and how difficult it was to fill that position. They're supposed to show why should we allow a higher salary than advertised for this position. We normally see these, or we hear about them after the fact, like when GMH was in dire need of electrical repair, but they hired an above-step PIO. And I question that. We hear about it from many other agencies. GURA, UOG does it, everyone does it. Some of them legitimate, very hard to recruit positions, are very exceptional qualifications, and we wanted to recruit those people. This won't fix the problem that I've seen now. Instead of, or in addition to the PIO, GMH has also hired a PR firm for $55 an hour, a PR firm for the Guam Memorial Hospital. So this will help all of us in the government, not just to see who's getting hired above step, but to see what priorities the agencies are setting on different things, including above step hiring or electrical panels. On May 5, 2025, BBMR, in their fiscal note, said the proposed amendments were administrative in nature, no fiscal impact on the government. During the public hearing, the public auditor and former speaker, B.J. Cruz, on behalf of OPA, submitted written testimony expressing support for the bill. And he stated that he supports, quote, the intent of this bill in promoting more accountability and transparency in the government of Guam's recruitment process, unquote. He also believes that this bill, quote, aligns with OPA's vision of the government of Guam being the standard of public trust and good governance, unquote. And I agree with this. All we want to do, the more transparent we are, the more we can justify why we are doing exceptions for certain people, then the people will begin to trust the government more. So this is one simple bill, a stride that we can take to promote public trust in the government by adding additional measures that mandates more visibility. And it will mandate visibility of these notices for above-step recruitment and hiring. So I hope I can get the support of my colleagues, and they will agree with me that trust in the government is an issue the government is really suffering with right now. Above-step hiring in particular, hiring in general, I would say, is always suspect to the public's mind. Are we doing it by the merit system? Are we doing it based on favoritism, friends, pori system? But these above-step hiring, I think in particular, if they're required to put it on the website, that's good. But if we're required to put it on the government-wide websites, put it into a permanent archive, then I think that's much, much better and allows us to really review these things as a whole as well. So this will help us in creating policy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope to get the support of my colleagues.
Thank you. On the bill, Bill 128-38 COR, General Lady from Tamuning, you're recognized.
Sujus Masi, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, I rise in full support of Bill 128-38, a bill that I proudly co-sponsored because the people of Guam are tired of watching a system that claims to be merit-based operate like anything, but is nothing like that. So they deserve honesty, Mr. Speaker, in hiring. They deserve fairness. And frankly, they deserve better than the shenanigans we all know have been happening across our government. At the public hearing, there wasn't a single senator who disagreed that something is seriously wrong with the way above-step hiring has been handled. Not one. The Office of the Public Accountability didn't mince his words either. They supported this bill's urgent passage because transparency is above step, is an above-step process, is so long overdue. And the examples raised during the hearing were hypothetical or historic. They were recent, concrete, and concerning. A good senator from Talafofo cited multiple positions where the justification of above-step pay was questionable at best. A senator from Tamuning pointed out that the current safeguards were too weak to prevent misuse. And a good senator from Jotnya said it plainly and correctly, from Ipan Talafofo said it plainly and correctly. Too many of these explanations don't add up. And some agencies, and I quote, putting 2 + 2 together and coming out with 22, unquote. That is exactly how the public feels. That the math doesn't add up and the process isn't being applied fairly. Mr. Speaker, GMH, the example of GMH is a perfect illustration. In FY 2021, 245 hires, 23 above step, including 70 non-clinical positions. 70 non-clinical. And when the legislature asked for the petitions justifying those above step salaries, GMH couldn't produce them. Not delayed, not incomplete, just missing. That should alarm every senator in this room. Because when an agency can't back up why someone was paid more than the standard step, it leaves the door wide open to favoritism, political influence, and unfair advantage. And that right there is what causes people to lose faith in our government. Because meanwhile, qualified people who studied, prepared, passed tests, and earned positions the right way get passed over, while someone else gets an unexplained fast-track bump. These are shenanigans I talked about during the hearing. And I will say it again today. That must stop. Bill 12838 gives us the tools to stop it. It doesn't slow hiring. It doesn't add cost. And it doesn't handcuff agencies that genuinely need above-step authority for too hard to find roles. What it does is require those petitions to be posted publicly on the Guam Public Notice Portal and delivered to the Speaker before the hire happens. Again, before the hire happens, not after. Not the Carabao before the, okay, sorry. Not after the Carabao that has left the barn, as Senator Barnett reminded us, or the good senator from Ipan, trying to stay within rules. Ipan. Mr. Speaker, this body has an obligation, not a suggestion, not a preference, but an obligation to ensure that government hiring is fair, consistent, and rooted in integrity rather than political convenience. Especially as we approach this election year, Mr. Speaker, we must make it absolutely clear that government jobs cannot be used as rewards or favors. The bill closes the loopholes, it strengthens the merit system, and it protects the integrity of our government workforce. And I ask my colleagues to please support this measure for those reasons. Sijus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the bill, gentleman from Talafofo, sir, recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to offer up my observations of Bill 128, which, if approved, seeks to provide for greater transparency with respect to above-step recruitment by requiring this information to be made available to taxpayers via the Guam Public Notice website. Mr. Speaker, recent examples of above-step recruitment petitions include the hiring of a University of Guam Chemist 2 in October of 2024, or 1 year after UOG initially attempted to fill the vacant position. Additional examples include a Public Defender Service Corporation Attorney 4 position in 2022, and a Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority Accountant 1 position. For reference, a December 2021 media article reported that the legislative chairperson on health at the time, who is also the primary author of this bill, 128, sent a follow-up letter to the GMHA board stating in part that she was awaiting copies for petitions for above-step recruitments and for the creation or amendment of petitions as initially requested on November 19, 2021. Mr. Speaker, the author of Bill 128 made note at the time that the petitions were not available during the hearing despite the request and the absence of these documents from GMHA prior to a November 2021 Health Committee oversight hearing of the hospital sidestepped the purpose of the hearing. With that said, Mr. Speaker, I'm hopeful that through Bill 128, our departments and our agencies will exercise greater care and transparency in their respective personnel recruitment processes. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly concerned that the above-step recruitment policy might be misapplied. I would like to refer to an example involving the Guam Department of Education, which, based on minutes from a February 18, 2025 meeting of the Guam Education Board, reportedly received a request from an applicant to be recruited at Step 10. From my understanding of the above-step recruitment policy for GDOE, the Superintendent of Education may petition the Guam Education Board for recruitment at a higher step, not to exceed Step 10, because of recruitment difficulty or exceptional qualifications for professional education positions. Mr. Speaker, if Bill 128 can help ensure that our departments and agencies are offering above-step recruitment based on documented recruitment difficulty, then this measure can and should bring us closer to a more transparent and responsible public policy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to offer my brief remarks on Bill 128.
Thank you very much, sir. On the bill, any senator wishing to speak on the bill? Gentlelady from Barrigada, you recognize me?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in full support of this measure. I think it's really critical when we're looking at, upholding the merit system. It's really critical that we increase transparency in this above-step recruitment and hiring. And what this bill does, it would basically require that any proposed above-step recruitment or hiring must be placed on the Government of Guam portal and sent as well to the Guam Legislature. And so hopefully this would deter any political hires from happening, which is one element that needs to be done to ensure that we uphold this merit system. There's many other things, and I know the public auditor mentioned he didn't want to get started on other things like detailed assignment, but that's another bill. The other thing that I wanted to share is that for those that were hired based on qualifications, it really hurts morale for the civil sector when they see friends and those that are hired out of favoritism are getting paid much more. And not only that, those that got hired based on qualifications have to train these people who are hired above step. And so we really need to nip this in the bud. It's hurting those workers who are doing their job, who are qualified in their positions, but you have to bear this trauma of seeing individuals hired for political reasons. It also wastes taxpayers' dollars. We are dealing with budgets that we're dealing with potential dwindling revenues in our government. And we're talking about above step hires. This can use up a lot of funds, not just for the salaries, but also for the benefits and retirement. So it is going to help the fiscal responsibility of our government, not only in the short term, but the long term. It would help boost morale. It would deter the unqualified hiring and recruitment of individuals. And we talk about all the time in this hall about how we're going to retain the workers. It's not just pay. It's the climate in which one works and which one continues to work as a way of retention. So this bill does multiple things, has multiple benefits for the government, for our people in general. And we want to come back to a merit system. We need to uphold this merit system urgently. And so I ask for my colleagues for their support for this very important measure to bring transparency to something which has been abused. To speak out for those that are too afraid to speak. Those who are doing their jobs but are too afraid to speak. We must be their voice. And so I ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you.
Thank you. On the bill. On the bill. Okay. Gentleman from Momuto to Maiti, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the intent behind this bill. I think it's important that we go back to fundamentals about fair hiring practices. I have long espoused my very strong feelings against nepotism, against the pari-pari system, against people hiring their brother-in-law and their fiance and whoever, and having to be told justifications that these are the most qualified people in the world because I can trust them. So I support what this legislation does, but members of this chamber need to pick a lane. Are we in favor of nepotism and poor hiring practices when we like the person doing it, and against it when we don't like the people doing it? Let's have some consistency here. I'm going to support this legislation because I believe that merit and getting away from the corrupt practices of hiring your family under the dead of night should stop. But I would like the members of this chamber to have some consistency too. We can't pick and choose who we are going to turn a blind eye to and who we are going to clutch our pearls about when it comes to nepotism and pari-pari hires. We need to be examples for the rest of the government that that type of behavior and hypocrisy will not stand. So again, I commend the author and all the people that support this legislation. But again, ask you to pick a lane. Are we for fair hiring practices for some, but support of nepotism and hiring family for others when we like them? It seems all quite arbitrary to me sometimes. And I think it would give the people much comfort if we would be consistent in our positions, rather than expanding powers for some, changing the laws in the middle of court cases when it suits us to help some offices when their hiring practices are thrown into question.
Senator, keep it germane.
Excuse me?
Keep it germane. This is about above-step recruitment.
This is about fair hiring practices,
This is
sir.
about above-step recruitment. Read the legislation, Senator. Keep it germane.
Absolutely, sir. And so again, I support this legislation because I believe in fair hiring practices in this government. And I hope we could carry this energy to all reforms and changes to stamp out some of the unfair hiring practice we see being exercised today. With that, I yield the rest of my time, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. On the bill. On the bill. No other senators wishing to speak on the bill. Gentleman from EPAT, sir, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon again to the people of Guam. And thank you for the opportunity to rise in strong support of this measure, as this is something that has been very interesting and subject much talked about, going back to my days in the media. And I think it's clear, there's some cases where an above-step recruitment is warranted, and we've seen examples of that. But what warrants the bill is all too often, and more times than not, we see examples that kind of fly in the face of what above-step recruitment is intended to accomplish. And, the sponsor of the bill had brought up the above-step recruitment of a public information officer at the Guam Memorial Hospital. This had occurred, I want to say around the COVID time, and this was something that, we'd really asked the administrator of the Guam Memorial Hospital to justify. And I don't think she was able to justify it. And this individual who we bent over backwards to bring into the government of Guam ended up leaving island just a couple years later. And we see all too often, and I don't want to bring the Guam Memorial Hospital up as the main example, but it just so happens that there was another position where you had the personnel services administrator abruptly resign and get hired over the department administration. And so in replacing this individual, the Guam Memorial Hospital hired the current personnel services administrator at an above-step rate. And I remember I'd asked him in one of the hearings what was the justification, and he had talked about, he holds this degree or that degree. But again, when we see especially in the case of the Guam Memorial Hospital, what do we always hear about? Part of this narrative about the people's health care has been that, we can't attract these specialists that our island needs because we can't afford to pay them. But on the other hand, we're, hiring people into these non-medical positions at an above-step rate that I think a lot of leadership of these agencies, whether it's Guam Memorial Hospital or others, are really hard-pressed to kind of justify to the people of Guam. And so I'm very proud to support this measure. And in the public hearing, I had wondered out loud if it goes far enough, because we're going to be in receipt of these notifications on the Guam Public Notices portal website, and we're supposed to get them, was it 10 days, I think, before... Anyway, I just worry that we'll have 10 days to react to this, and not necessarily to micromanage the hiring at the agencies, because when we see these above-step recruitments, I don't think any senator is going to run out of the agency and say, hey, stop that hiring. But what it should do is give some of the oversights here in the body, and more importantly, the employees of the agencies and other prospective applicants Even people who didn't apply for the job, maybe you just start checking this website and you're like, oh my God, I'm qualified for that. They don't need to go above step. And then, let us know and we hopefully can walk this down. So that was my concern, was I didn't think that the bill went far enough. But of course, it's absolutely 100% better than anything we have in place now, which we don't actually have anything that's convenient for the sake of accountability and transparency for the people of Guam. And the bill, again, was supported as mentioned in the open by the author, by the public auditor, BJ Cruz, who I know has strong support on both sides of the aisle. And in his testimony, he had said the OPA supports the intent of the bill in promoting more accountability and transparency in the government of Guam's recruitment process, specifically on above-step recruitment for government employees. And this bill aligns with the OPA's vision of the government of Guam being the standard of public trust and good governance. Oh boy, don't we wish. And the good senator from Barragata in her comments also spoke very well on the bill. And, it's not just the above step hiring. We're talking about hiring practices and just hiring in general in the government of Guam, especially when you consider the protections that are supposed to be in place for the merit system employees, the people who get hired most of the time on what they know, not who they know. It's frustrating for these employees who work hard, and as it was said, sometimes we get calls from these employees in the agencies, and they'll say, why is this person being hired at above step when they don't have any experience and the only qualification they have is that they're, close with the director. And so we do see this happening in the government of Guam, and so I think this effort goes a long way towards accountability, a long way towards transparency. And I'm hoping that it'll kind of send the red flag to some of these directors and these hiring authorities in these different agencies to maybe stop the shenanigans before they even start. And, I'm hoping this effort will lead to broader efforts from the people's duly elected voices to address just some of the hiring in general, other things that fly in the face of the merit system. And I'm going to put this together, Mr. Speaker, if you'll allow me, are some of the raises that have been given out by the cabinet. We've never seen this before in the history of the government of Guam, where you have unclassified employees receiving substantial increases. I mean, we're talking about 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, some cases higher than that, raises, when it's always been that these political hires as leadership were hired with the understanding that they had to sacrifice for the greater good. And so, when we talk about things that make people not trust the government, that's definitely one of them. I mean, look at the latest hire. There was no disrespect to the former speaker, but we just had a superintendent hired at GDOE for, $40,000 more than her predecessor. On the same day, we see a headline from the Guam Department of Education talking about how short they are in their budget. So these are the kind of things that, you put out there, people read, they have a hard time trusting the government, and I don't blame them either. It's one of the reasons why I ran, Mr. Speaker. So thank you for the opportunity to rise in support of the bill, and I hope that we see its unanimous passage from the body. Si Dios Masi.
Thank you very much. On the bill. On the bill. Senator, you want us to close?
Thank you. Thank you also to my colleagues for standing and talking on this bill, for those who were at the public hearing, of course, for the committee chair for having the hearing on this, and particularly for Senator Paris for standing in for me at that hearing while I was off island. I really appreciate that. Again, the bill is going to ensure publication on a broader scope of these very special above-step recruitments. And it's going to publish, hopefully, supposed to be, the recruitment difficulty and the exceptional qualifications used to justify these above-step recruitments. Publication, it is my hope that publication is going to ensure that these standards are applied fairly and consistently across government agencies. By making these petitions more accessible, the measure enhances oversight, ensures hiring decisions are well justified, and promotes transparency in the use of taxpayer dollars. It strengthens the merit system protections, prevents salary disputes, disparities, for people doing the same work, improves accountability in government hiring practices. One of my colleagues who spoke on this bill was also at the public hearing and had asked, my colleague from Talafofo had asked excellent questions. How many weeks or months do agencies typically wait prior to considering filling an above-step recruitment? There is no standard waiting period or advertisement period across the government agencies. At least that's what I found. And the absence of that is one of the problems. I had asked DOA for a draft policy that we could just put into the law so that everybody would have to use that. And they said they were working on it or had been working on it. But there is none right now. The other question that my colleague asked was, to what extent have agencies advertised employment opportunities regionally, nationally, and internationally, or consulted organizations such as the Guam Bar Association, the Guam Board of Accountancy, the Guam Medical Association, Nurses Association, those types of organizations? When we say difficult to recruit, what were our efforts in recruiting? What do we actually have to prove we have done to make it deemed difficult to recruit? Again, that's not consistent throughout the government. So we're going to bring attention to what they are using. Hopefully from that, we'd be able to craft a policy that makes it consistent across the board, or for certain types of positions at least. Additionally, I have requested when the OPA gives all of us an opportunity once a year to chime in on what we think he should audit, this is one of the things I've asked if they have time to audit, is that above-step recruitments throughout the government, so that we can have some kind of comparison of what types of parameters have been set in the different agencies, so that we can make it more consistent throughout the government. The statute itself says that the DOA, the Judicial Council, and the governing board or commission as to agency, department, or public corporation may establish policies to administer this section. But I don't think they all have. And if they have, they are not consistent. So we want to eventually get to that. But this is going to allow us the framework, the data that we actually need to do that. So I'd like to add, if he has no objection, Senator Gumatalto as a sponsor, because he was at the hearing, and it was, I believe his testimony also helped us to shape this bill.
On the motion to add Senator Sean Gumatalto as the co-sponsor.
And Senator Parkinson.
Senator Parkinson, and I think that
And I'd like to thank my existing co-sponsors, Senators Perez, Barnett, and Taitigui.
I think that Senator Shelley also wanted to be added as a co-sponsor. You want to permit her to?
Senator Calvo? Yes. Senator Mantonani?
Okay, motion to add Senator Sean Gumatalto, Will Parkinson, Shelley Calvo, and Sabrina Salas Matanani as co-sponsors. Are there any objections? Hearing seen no objection, motion carries.
Again, thank you to my co-sponsors. Thank you to all of you, my colleagues, for your consideration of this bill. I want to thank the public auditor for their testimony, their assistance in helping us to build a more transparent government. And I do, this is for all the employees, those who have to suffer with what they feel is unfair. And hopefully bringing openness to it is going to bring more fairness to it. So thank you to all of those employees.
Okay, on the bill as amended, and seeing that you probably got everybody else as co-sponsors, nobody's going to object to it. Are there any objections? Hearing seeing no objection, motion carries. Oh, ma'am, you want to move this to third, right?
I move the bill 128 as amended by the committee and amended on the floor to third reading.
Okay, on that motion, any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Mr. Vice Speaker, gentleman from Sinania, sir, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move Bill 143-38 COR as amended by the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agricultural, Parks, and Infrastructure, the third reading. Speak on the bill, please.
You can proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Bill 143-38 grants procurement authority to Department of Public Works for purchases. The original version of 143-38 COR would have granted small purchases authority to DPW via its director. At the hearing, however, DPW requested full authority for its purchases. This request is not unreasonable since DPW is the existing procurement authority for all construction contracts. The DPW purchase ranges from anything from a quart of oil all the way up to fuel for school buses and heavy equipment. It's also the lead agency for procuring services to collect junk vehicles now that's littering across our island. And since DPW is already the procurement authority for construction contracts, its personnel are already required to complete all procurement training modules. So this transition should be seamless. I hope I'll be able to get the support of my colleagues on this measure, and I look forward to the debate on Bill 143-38. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the bill, any senators wishing to speak on the bill? I notice that there are at least 2 amendments proffered by Senator Tyree. So, ma'am, you do have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, one of the reasons why I'm taking the procurement courses, the modules, all 4 modules. In fact, we just finished module 2, going into 3. It's very interesting, but very simple too. And I think what happens in procurement, I think that a lot of people get involved, that they make it very complicated, confusing, and it's not. It's very simple. It's crossing your T's and dotting your I's. It's creating a diary of every step you make when it comes to procurement. If you're going out for a bid, it tells you exactly, by the law itself, tells you exactly how soon you have to put it out, how many bids must go out. It talks about small purchases. It talks about, going above that. And one of the areas is Department of Parks and, DPW. What they have the authority to do is they have the authority to do procurement for contracts, only contracts. Not supplies, not equipment, nothing, just contracts. And the reason why, too, is because DPW also has a lot of engineers and architects. And they're able to go through these procurement, processes within their own agency because of that, the expertise that they have. Now, we passed a bill similar to this, giving the authority to the mayor's office, allowing them the procurement ability for their supplies and giving them a cap. Now, they already, even before that bill was passed, Mr. Speaker, they already have the authority to procure for small supplies. Of course, they don't have the authority like contracts like DPW does, but they already have that. And now here we are at DPW, allowing them to do something that is not in their preview. And that could be very concerning, especially in procurement. Now, what I have, I'm concerned about, I put in some amendments. And I believe it's been passed out. Okay. It's 2 amendments, I believe. I hope everyone received it, if I might continue on. Okay. So one of my concerns, of course, is what I mentioned earlier about DPW not having the authority to do for small purchases. And I wanted to ask the author, before I even start with this amendment, to make sure this is clear, that the bill claims they're given the authority for small purchases. And that's it, just small purchases, because according to the law, small purchases is nothing over 25,000. And is that the intention?
Author, yield to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I yield to the question, and that's where I do have an amendment proffered to remove the word small from the bill so that it will allow DPW to have that full authority to purchase. So we're removing the word small. Yeah.
So then that means that Mr. Speaker, if I may,
So we can grant them the full authority for.
So if that's the case, the
Procurement
title
authority.
of the bill says the authority for small purchases. So I guess the intent, later on is to remove small purchases and to allow them, what is the amount?
Let's take a 1-minute recess.
Okay.
Legislature's back in session.
Thank you,
Vice
Ms.
Speaker, you have the floor, sir.
Well, I'm sorry, the lady from Tumuning had the floor.
Ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield to the author of the legislation.
Yes, ma'am. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After talking with my colleague there, I'm going to go ahead and move Bill 14338 back to committee.
On the motion to move the bill back to committee, are there any objections? Hearing seen no objection, motion carries. Sir, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill 157-38 COR to the third reading. I'd like to speak on this motion, please.
You want to go ahead and read the title, sir? Read the title.
An act to amend subsection 25.25 of Chapter 25, Title 9, Guam Code annotated, relative to adding stronger penalties for crimes of third-degree criminal sexual conduct committed against younger victims. To the third reading, I'd like to speak on this.
You can proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what this bill does is it creates a longer minimum sentence for those perpetrators that sexually assault younger teenage children. Mr. Speaker, this past June, at the top of the headlines was about a 31-year-old convicted sex offender who received an 8-year sentence for forcible sex on a 14-year-old girl. Because the girl was not a member of the same household, perpetrator and victim lived in different units of the duplex. The charge was lowered from first to third-degree criminal sexual conduct. Had the victim been a member of the same household, the perpetrator was looking at 15 to 25 years in prison. This bill creates a new crime called aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct. It creates sentencing range of 15 to 25 years in where the sexual assault victim is 14 or 15 years of age and the perpetrator is more than 4 years older than the victim and is not a member of the same household. All jurisdictions in the United States have long prison terms for those criminals that sexually assault children under the age of 14. Most states also have tough sentences for those who sexually assault teenage victims, especially those under the age of 16. The new crime of aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct that will be enacted by this bill will bring justice to victims of 14 and 15-year-olds. It applies to all forcible sexual assaults and to consensual acts where the perpetrator is more than 4 years older than the victim. I ask for my colleagues' support of this measure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. On the measure, on the bill, any senator wishing to speak on the bill? Senator Parrish, ma'am, gentlelady from Barragata, you have an amendment. You want to speak to the bill?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support stronger measures when it comes to criminal sexual conduct, especially for minors. I just have a concern, maybe a question to the author of the bill. Is there any overlap with first-degree criminal sexual conduct and the aggravated version of the criminal sexual conduct? My concern is that in the first-degree criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, there are elements here in aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct that also exists. For instance, the use of force or coercion, the actor occupies a position of authority or supervision over the victim. So those are things that would qualify under the first degree. And so the first degree criminal sexual conduct is a felony in the first degree. The aggravated third degree criminal sexual conduct is a felony in the second degree. So if I could just get clarification that there, I do not want to have a lesser penalty if they commit the same offense. So I'm just wondering if there's any way we can clarify this. Thank you.
Does the author yield to the question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Like I said, this measure is about those that are not within the same household. So it creates the new third degree, aggravated third degree criminal sexual conduct. And that's why it's, I mentioned about them staying within the same household. This is those that are not within that same household, so they don't have, it's not that overlapping, or it would take away from the first degree that the retiring speaker had mentioned.
Ma'am, does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Yeah, maybe that could be clarified perhaps in the language. I don't know if that's necessary, but if we can make that more apparent. I did introduce an amendment and to the bill, so I would prefer to bifurcate it since that is the response of my question. So I do have an amendment in the Google Drive. So yes, so there's two parts to it. There is the aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct, and then there's the close-in age mitigation. And then there's also actually three parts to it. There's a subsection E.
So would you like to bifurcate them?
Yeah, if I can split it up.
Okay, so why don't we do with the first one then?
So the first one, because of that response, I'll just delete that part, C. So there's a C, there's a D, and there's an E.
So what do you want to do, C?
C will just eliminate because,
Okay, so we're not going to entertain C.
correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to D. We'll
Okay,
bifurcate it and go to D, and then we'll also deal with subsection E separately.
okay, hold on.
Is that what you want to do?
Yes, actually, if I could just,
Let's take a 1 minute recess.
okay,
Come
thank
on.
you, thank you.
Legislation back from recess. Senator Perez, you still have the floor, man?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that recess. During the recess, I was able to get confirmation that a lot of this was vetted by the AG and that this amendment would actually cause an overlap to occur in existing laws. So I make the motion to withdraw this amendment as bifurcated. Yeah.
So the entire amendment?
Correct.
So C, D, and E, we're all
Yes.
gonna,
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
so you're going to withdraw it. Okay. You can still have, you still have the floor, man. You still have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support stronger measures when it comes to criminal sexual conduct, and especially of minors. I think there is some way, if we can improve this part of law, I think it's essential. You know, again, this law was created quite a while ago, and, you know, my personal thoughts are that any kind of rape should get the first degree, and with escalator clauses for minors. Yeah, so I know it's more complicated, and considering there is case law that already exists, but it's heartbreaking to hear that those that rape people with disabilities, the third degree is what is being used. And I don't think that doesn't, any type of rape should be, to me, penalized much harsher. I think this law, if the commission can look into this and provide recommendations on how to improve it, especially today, with today's eyes. I think back when this was first created, I feel there was more, there was less of this, the rigorousness in penalizing those that rape individuals. And I think, just wanted to register some thoughts about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. On the bill, gentlelady from Tamuning, ma'am, you're recognized.
Tijusmasu, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand in full support of this measure. We really did our due diligence when it comes to this because of what the previous speaker has mentioned, if it's overlapping in certain areas. So of course, not only did we have a markup meeting, but constant calls back and forth, and to ensure that we had the Attorney General review this before even sending it out, the committee sending this out to be on the session floor. Mr. Speaker, if you see in the committee report, colleagues, you'll see that the markup meeting of a lot of the changes that were made to ensure what the previous speaker was talking about. Based on this, it effectively addresses any concerns raised during the public hearing. We address all the concerns. The measure now establishes a clear and legal consistent framework for third-degree criminal sexual conduct, and it's distinguishing between the standards of aggregate and age in close in age offenses. And this is harmonizing in the penalties with the existing provisions. So it was a lot of work on this bill to make sure we got it right, and I'd like to thank the author for his consistency when it comes to addressing these particular most heinous crimes in our community to ensure that those who are convicted are sent away for quite a long time. So I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that, and the author of this legislation. As the oversight chair for justice, this does comply to everything that was mentioned in the public hearing. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome, ma'am. On the bill, gentleman from Televovo, so you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do rise in support of Bill 157, and I thank the bill's author and our Vice Speaker, who has, throughout his career as a member of this legislative branch, put forward policies establishing harsher penalties, including extended jail time and probation restrictions for individuals found guilty of criminal sexual conduct. With the provisions of Bill 157, we as policymakers are taking another step forward in our collective efforts to fight those in our community who would choose to commit such a heinous crime against younger children. If approved, Bill 157 provides that a person 18 years of age convicted of CSC in the third degree against a victim between ages 14 and 16 shall not have his term suspended or probation be imposed in lieu of said term. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, Bill 157 ensures that the convicted sexual offender shall not be granted parole, work release, or educational programs outside the confines of prison, and that the provisions of the justice safety valve shall not apply. Mr. Speaker, during the public hearing on Bill 157, I made it a point to reference the list of convicted sex offenders that is publicly available through the Judiciary Guam's website, particularly the 7 who failed to register and the 41 others who registered but failed to update their information with the court. There are federal crimes committed for this absconding or failure to properly register or update, especially if another crime is committed against children, dangers to our society, and a travesty of justice. I also referenced, Mr. Speaker, data relative to 80 CSC-related arrests, which were reported in GPD's 2023 Uniform Crime Report, and the more than 90 psychosexual evaluations and sex offender individual counseling services that were provided by the judiciary during 2023. Mr. Speaker, earlier this year, I cited other statistics that were made available through the University of Guam's Violence Against Women Prevention Program, which reported that Guam has the second highest number of rapes per capita in the United States. Mr. Speaker, there are 64.2 reported rapes per 100,000 people in Guam, compared to the national rate of 25.2 per 100,000 people. Mr. Speaker, the data is troubling, and the reality provides me with a clearer understanding of why families might decide to relocate and why visitors might not want to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to visit our island. Aside from not wanting to see the statues of abandoned vehicles, stray dogs roaming our villages, and household garbage littered across our roadways. Mr. Speaker, Bill 157 is more about public safety. It's about saving this island from further destruction from within. This policy alone will not deal with people who simply do not care about the safety and innocence of others, especially young children and the most vulnerable in our society. However, with the bill, we have another policy tool at our disposal to keep sex predators off our streets and allow our children and families to live, learn, work, and become contributing citizens without fear of getting sexually assaulted by sick and very dangerous people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to register my thoughts on Bill 157, and I ask to be added as a co-sponsor at this time.
Thank you very much, sir. On the bill, Gentlelady from Barragata, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of Bill number 157-38 COR as amended. This measure represents an important responsibilities of this body, safeguarding our children and ensuring that those who prey upon them are held fully accountable under the law. Mr. Speaker, this is not symbolic. It is a clear and decisive statement that Guam will not tolerate adults who target, manipulate, or overpower young people. Children who are still forming their identity, still developing their judgment, and who deserve protection, not exploitation. The intent of this bill recognizes an unavoidable truth. The trauma inflicted in these cases does not end when the crime ends. Survivors carry the weight of these violations into adulthood. Through their relationships, their confidence, their mental health, and their ability to trust institutions that are supposed to protect them. This bill responds to that reality with seriousness and moral clarity. Mr. Speaker, strengthening penalties is not about simply increasing prison terms. It is about ensuring that our justice system communicates the full gravity of these crimes. It is about removing opportunities for dangerous individuals to return to the community prematurely. It is about ensuring that the legal consequences match the lifelong impact on on victims. These young survivors and their families deserve nothing less, Mr. Speaker. For these very reasons, I rise in strong support of Bill number 157-38 COR, and I thank the author, Vice Speaker, for this very mindful bill, and I thank him as well for the invitation to co-sponsor it. I respectfully urge my colleagues to join me in advancing this legislation with the urgency and conviction that our children deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the bill, any other senator wishing to speak on the bill? Gentleman from Ipan, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to rise and speak in support of the bill, which I think is a great companion legislation to the Guam version of Jessica's Law that we successfully passed unanimously in the previous legislature. So I commend the author for some of the loopholes that the bill closes. And I kind of said this when we passed the Jessica's Law too, although the sentence here for individuals found guilty of a felony of the first degree, the judge shall have the ability to sentence them to a term of confinement of not less than 12 years and no more than 25 years. I just again pray that the judges give the maximum penalty in these cases, because I think the data shows, and I commend the senator from Talafofo, very troubling. It's hard to get up and talk when you hear these numbers. But I think that the data shows that individuals who commit these types of atrocities against our children, there's no cure, and they deserve to be locked up for as long as we can lock them up. And if that's the rest of their lives, in some cases with some offenses in Jessica's Law, then, so be it. And so again, I ask the judges that although they can confine these individuals if they're found guilty to terms of not less than 12 years and no more than 25, that they go for the maximum penalty. To join us in sending that message to these sick and depraved individuals, Mr. Speaker, and that message, of course, is Protehi Famagon, to protect our children. Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. On the bill, any other senators wishing to speak on the bill? On the bill. Gentlelady from Tanzania, ma'am, you're recognized.
The bill, as reported out of the committee, is really quite different than the bill that the public hearing was held on. And at first, I was going to say, I think we need to have another public hearing, because we're changing what the bill talked about, treating or punishing as a felony of the second degree, is now we're talking about certain categories being treated as felony of the first degree, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I don't think that's what we talked about at the public hearing. We talked about those who had already been described in our statutes as committing a felony of the second degree were going to be punished for more years. I looked at the Law Revision Commission's findings. They don't seem to have a finding regarding this section of the law. In other words, they don't have a recommendation that this be changed. But I did read the AG's testimony over and over again, and the committee's markup, and the committee did a very good job with what I think is very complicated by putting in or repeating the close-in age mitigation that we already recognize in another statute, so that we are not inconsistent with that. As the AG pointed out, the original bill might be. The committee also put in this language that says, the term imposed shall not be suspended, nor shall probation be imposed in lieu of said term, as indicated in 80.60 of Article 4, 9 GCA, nor shall parole, work release, or educational programs outside the confines of prison be granted. The provisions of the justice safety valve shall not apply. I want to thank the committee for putting that back, for putting this in. It kind of brings together all the different provisions of law that we've tried to enact to protect victims of criminal sexual conduct, and puts them all in here together and really ensures that if convicted, these people will not be allowed to reoffend. This is a law, again, we're talking about a law against, or a crime against persons who are between 14 and 16 years old. Very, very specific. And we had just passed recently about those who were younger, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and younger crime victims. I think the AG pointed out that the original bill here would have made the penalty even harsher than what we have put for younger victims. So the committee has done a very, very good job trying to incorporate the AG's concerns. I want to what the bill does, however, is it creates a new crime, one that was not discussed at the public hearing. And this is a aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct. And it says, similar to the statute that we're talking about, that talks about victims who are between 14 and 16 years of age, this one also says victims between 14 and 16 years of age, where the perpetrator or the act involves the use of force or coercion, the actor's more than 5 years older than the victim, or the actor has a prior conviction for criminal sexual conduct, shall be guilty of a felony of the first degree and sentenced to 12 to 25 years. This is, again, very different from the original bill. My only objection, I guess, is just, I would like to get testimony on this because we're talking about a felony of the first degree now. And I would just like to put that back out for the public defender and the AG to confirm. Do we have, I guess I'm going to ask the committee or the author to yield if we have anything after the committee markup that shows response, or that the AG and the public defender had reviewed this bill. I think I heard her say that, but if she could just say that again. Thank you.
Would the committee chair yield to the question?
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the proffer of the question for that question, because as I mentioned several times, we had to go back to the Attorney General's office to concur with the markup. We had to go back a second time once we went back to the markup so that the author of the legislation can see what the concern that the Attorney General had. And in conclusion, too, as well, the creation of the aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct. The Attorney General's assessment that the original version of Bill 153 required revisions to align with the Guam's existing criminal code and sentencing structure. So the committee therefore amended the bill to accomplish this goal with the following of creating this particular section of the aggravated third-degree criminal sexual conduct. I hope that was answered the question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Titus Masi, I know my, is that my time?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Go ahead and conclude.
Pardon?
Go ahead and conclude.
Yes, thank you. Just thank you to the committee for the very extensive work for getting the AG's review again of a very different bill. I guess that means there wasn't any review by the public defender. Normally, they come in and testify on these things. So, but again, I have no objection to these things. It's only, I just want to make sure that the committee's been put on notice as to what we are making this big change to the criminal statutes. And again, I am curious, when the Law Revision Commission makes no recommendation, why that is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. On the bill. On the bill. Any other senators wishing to speak on the bill? No other senators? Mr. Vice Speaker, sir, you can close on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues for their input on Bill 157-38. And I'd like to thank the committee chair, Senator Tideway, for their due diligence in the committee work and ensuring that both the Attorney General's office and the committee, we all work together to ensure that this came out to be a bill that is stronger for our community. I'd just like to make an amendment, Mr. Speaker, and that would be to add co-sponsors, Senator Tideway, Senator Gumatata, and Senator Chalahi onto Bill 157-38 COR.
On the motion to add Senators Tideway, Gumatata, and Chalahi as co-sponsors to the bill, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to send Bill 157-38 COR to the down into the voting file, third reading.
Okay. On the motion to send Bill 157-38 COR as amended by committee and further amended on the floor to the third reading file, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to place Bill 163-38 COR as amended by the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Affairs, Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Elections, and Retirement to third reading. And this is an act to add a new subsection 7146.1 of Chapter 7, Title 16, Guam Code Annotated, relative to transfer on death beneficiary designation for motor vehicles to the third reading. I'd like to speak on this.
You can proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this bill does will allow Guam motor vehicle owners to designate beneficiaries for their vehicles upon death, thus avoiding probate. Mr. Speaker, currently about half of all U.S. states allow for transfer of death designations on the ownership or title certificate of the motor vehicles issued in such states. The rest of the states allow for simplified transfer on death of motor vehicles that allow owners to bypass the probate estate to transfer their vehicles. This bill has many elements in common with the laws of the state of Texas and California. And unlike other types of transfer of death processes, this bill will create a mechanism that should make designating and changing beneficiaries as simple as changing the beneficiary on a life insurance policy. It's intended to be done without the need of hiring lawyers, and this bill will not affect transfers from one spouse to another under Guam's community property laws, nor would it affect the joint ownership where the vehicle passes to the surviving owner upon death. Spousal owners and joint owners, however, will be given the opportunity at any time to jointly designate and change beneficiaries. This also does not forgive any liens placed on the vehicle by any financial institutions, and I ask my colleagues for their support on this bill.
Thank you very much, sir. On the bill. On the bill. Any discussion? Any members wishing to speak on the bill? On the bill. Would you like to speak? Let's take a 1-minute recess. back from recess. Gentlelady from Tumuning, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me and being able to stand in full support of this legislation by explaining a few things as the Oversight Chair doing the committee report on this particular bill. And again, I'd like to thank the author of this legislation because I tell you, the one bill that was introduced by my good colleague who sits next to me earlier in the year, who proffered a similar type of legislation, and that really helped a lot of people. In fact, even myself, I took advantage of the situation, title, death upon you receiving title for property. But one of the biggest problems that we have right now, even when people try to transfer names for vehicles, it becomes more difficult. As you know, we passed legislation when it comes to not notarizing, with the sale of a vehicle. Well, there's still more problems when it comes to vehicles when somebody passes and not being able to get it turned over to you right away, to be able to cover the cost of the payments, especially if it's in lien with the bank. It just really becomes taxing, and sometimes the family loses the vehicle because of that. So, Mr. Speaker, during the committee markup of this bill, and during the time I was at the public hearing, of course, full supported this. I suggested making a couple changes to the bill, and also with the recommendation of Department of Revenue Taxation, which she asked, which is Maria Lizama, who asked to provide, asked her to provide testimony. And in that testimony, I believe she asked us to change the definition to motor vehicle, so that was done in the bill. We also added the definition. We also required a form, and this is what I mentioned during the public hearing, that the Department of Land Management, DRT, to develop one to facilitate a form that's in plain English, so it's easy to understand for those who are wanting to take advantage of this situation. So we did that, and you'll see in the market meeting that also the Attorney General's office, who stood and testified in support of the bill, he stated that the bill aligns with Guam law and with those of many U.S. jurisdictions, as he mentioned earlier. And then he also recommended that DRT be required to distribute informational material summarizing the new law. Of course, good educational, because we get a lot of phone calls from constituents. How does this really work? And it'd be so much easier to have DRT to provide that on the website, so people just can go to the website and look at what they cannot do, and what happens if it's a lien, and how to file this particular document. So other than that, you'll see as well, during the markup meeting, we, in letter N, by incorporating the public information disclosure requirement within 90 days was incorporated, again, plain language, was added to number 1. Number 2, instructions for submitting and recording transfer on death beneficiary designation. And 3, incorporating notices that any existing lien or security interests remain enforceable against the vehicle. That was very important, because we did discuss that. Well, what happens if it's still owned by the bank? But if we have that name in, and that person has the obligation to oversee that, or just let the vehicle go. But it's important to keep that in there until the vehicle is paid off. And which the individual can do at the end, by the way, to provide that documentation to show that it has been paid off. And once again, as I pointed out, it's as simple as DRT providing this educational way of this process by educating the public by putting it on their website. That's really important. I got to tell you, we receive so many calls on how to do something, and if we can just direct them there, they can get the full, the true guidelines that Rev and Tax put out. Other than that, I'm so in support of this legislation. My father passed away a few years ago, a couple of years ago now, I think, and we had his vehicle. Unfortunately, we had to go through probate, and it became very taxing, and it costs a lot of money on probate. So I really appreciate this, and I know there's a lot of people out there who appreciates this legislation as well. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to provide my testimony in support of this bill.
Thank you very much, ma'am. On the bill, gentleman from Telefovo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to offer brief remarks in support of Bill 163. Similar to a policy this 38th legislature and the chief executive approved several months ago, allowing for transfer on death designations for real property, as mentioned by the speaker before me. Bill 163 is intended to help families avoid lengthy and oftentimes costly legal proceedings. Mr. Speaker, I do appreciate the Attorney General's testimony on this bill, particularly his summary that currently families must scramble to find and pay for a probate attorney in order to resolve real and personal property legal issues. According to the AG, letting a car sit in a garage or in the open not just makes it useless, but it will deteriorate faster without use. And I could admit, I did see this firsthand with my own family after the death of an uncle. There was not much we were able to do at the time. The car withered and became inoperable and was of use to no one. And my story, Mr. Speaker, is surely not unique. Mr. Speaker, through Bill 163, we have an opportunity to help families gain access legally to a personal vehicle, including any bank lien or other financial obligation that might be tied to a vehicle. Bill 163 is good public policy. And at a time when court and public notice costs and the shortage of lawyers on island make it difficult for families to take the very first steps of the probate process, this proposal will ensure that if a vehicle owner intends for his or her vehicle to be transferred to a family or a trusted friend upon their death, then ownership of that asset is conveyed to its rightful heir. Mr. Speaker, I do thank the author of the bill for proposing this timely and much-needed proposal, which, if approved, has the potential to help our families ensure their hard-earned assets, in this case personal vehicles, are handled in accordance with the original owner's wishes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time to register my thoughts again on this bill.
You're very welcome. On the bill, gentlelady from Zonia, you had your hand up, ma'am.
Jesus Masi, I very, very much support the intent of this bill, and I agree with previous speakers about the real usefulness and convenience of a transfer of deed of title upon death of land that we passed earlier this year. I continue to recommend that to everybody in my family and my friends. But for this one, I just want to check, because land is a little bit more unique. If something's filed at land management, that's pretty open to the public. The public gets to see everything filed at land management. I haven't seen a place where I can see all the certificates of title at Rev and Tax. And this thing requires that you're going to submit the certificate of title, certificate of ownership of the automobile when you want to avail of this, right? But how do I know that I am the surviving beneficiary? If the author would yield, or the committee chair.
The author yield to the question.
Yes, so this legislation, what it is when they register the vehicle, they put in a designated beneficiary for their vehicle. And that will be kept on to the Department of Revenue and Taxation motor vehicle records, that who is their designated beneficiary for that particular vehicle. And it doesn't prohibit them from changing it at any time. So, you know, it's one of those things where if your uncle left you a vehicle, then he would tell you that, you know, anything happens to me, then that vehicle will go to you. So you'll be the designated beneficiary, just like on a life insurance policy.
Does that answer your question?
All right. I guess maybe is the Department of Revenue and Taxation at liberty to tell everybody who is the beneficiary? Because I really don't see that here. It says, yes, when you file your CT, it's going to, you can designate a beneficiary, but are they required to tell me about it? See, that's not required. We don't have to tell the beneficiary, but what if somebody wants to go into revenue tax and ask, am I the beneficiary of this car? I don't have the certificate of ownership, obviously, because I don't own it, but am I the beneficiary? Is that possible to check?
I believe so, because what it does is that when you, it's just like, guys, when you get your vehicle registration, it has your information, your name, your address, the lien holder, and I'm sure, or this is something that we can ensure that happens, is that a TOD is also placed on the registration or on the ownership, so that they'll know who the current beneficiary is, just like a lien holder.
We'll take a 1-minute recess. Legislature is back in session. Ma'am, you still have the floor.
Thank you very much. Again, so the bill in committee has been amended to require that the Department of Revenue and Taxation is going to publish a summary of the rights and responsibilities of vehicle owners, beneficiaries, lien holders, instructions for submitting and recording a transfer on death designation, notice that a lien or security interest remains enforceable against the vehicles. Pretty much the instructions. They're going to put this all on their website so that anybody can avail of this process. The last sentence of the bill says DMV shall distribute the materials to any applicant requesting a certificate of title or transfer under this section. I think, well, I hope, we'll see if Revenue and Tax can really implement this as written, because it is hard. If I don't know that I'm the beneficiary before someone dies, it's hard to go get that title of ownership. Who am I to walk into their house and say, I'm going to the car, I want to look at the title, or go to Rev and Tax and say, I think I'm the beneficiary, can you tell me? And if we authorize them to do that by that last section, then that's excellent, then that's great. Then they can tell me whether I am the beneficiary. And then what else the beneficiary has to do is prevent a certificate of ownership of the car, swear that the person died and that the beneficiary who's applying is entitled to the vehicle as the designated beneficiary. Again, they're only going to know that if they're told, and this doesn't require anybody to tell them necessarily. And then number 3, a certificate of the death, if required by DMV. I've been getting calls to my office because it's very difficult for people to get the certificate of death unless you're like the spouse or the child. You're not necessarily going to get that. They're not going to give it to you. So there just might be a little bit of technical difficulty in getting this. But since Revenue and Taxation was in favor of the bill and said that they could implement it as written, especially with the changes by the committee, then I'm going to go with it. And I hope that they fix whatever they need or put in whatever they need and make it very clear, and that beneficiaries are going to be able to know that they have been designated at the right time. I love this transfer method because it allows the owner of the vehicle to change their mind while they are alive. We always want to do this. We want to ensure there's not duress. We want to ensure that, we always caution elderly people from transferring their property to who they think is going to take care of them, and that's not really the reality that turns out. And it's too late because they've transferred their property and now there's no one taking care of them. So I like very much the fact that they can change their mind while they are alive and they can redesignate the beneficiaries during their lifetime. So this is a great bill. I hope DMV can implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. On the bill. On the bill. Any other senators wishing to speak on the bill? No other senators? Vice Speaker? Oh, Vice Speaker, you can close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I thank my colleagues for their input on this piece of legislation. And, it's one of those things, the committee has really come out and, worked on with the Department of Revenue and Taxation and ensuring that we get all the information that was needed to make this bill a stronger piece of legislation. The only amendment I'd like to make is to add the following co-sponsors, Mr. Speaker, and that would be Senator Taitigui, Gumatauta, and Terlahi to be placed on Bill 163-38 COR.
On the motion to add Senators Taitigui, Terlahi, and Gumatauta as co-sponsors to the bill, any objections? Hearing see no objections, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to place Bill 163-38 COR as amended in the third reading.
Okay, there's a motion to move Bill 163-38 COR as amended by committee and further amended to the floor to the third reading. Any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Gentlelady from Barrigada, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to place into the third reading file Bill number 165-38 COR as amended by the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Elections, and Retirement. Bill number 165-38 COR is introduced by myself, entitled An Act to Amend Subsection D of Section 3101 of Article 1, Chapter 1, Title 16, Guam Code annotated relative to extending the period during which holders of valid U.S. driver's licenses may operate motor vehicles in Guam. Mr. Speaker, I wish to discuss it.
You can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bill number 165-38 COR may appear straightforward on paper, but it is a measure rooted in practicality and in recognition of how people actually experience our government systems. Every year, thousands of individuals arrive on Guam. Workers who bolster our healthcare system, our tourism industry, and our construction sector. Military dependents who join their families, students stepping into a new chapter. And when they get here, Mr. Speaker, they are met with a licensing process built in a timeline that no longer reflects the realities of our agencies or the realities of their lives. Under current law, Mr. Speaker, individuals with a valid U.S. jurisdiction license have only 30 days to obtain a Guam driver's license. That requirement was created during a different administrative landscape. Before the expansion of our off-island workforce, before the increase in civilian and military relocations, and before DRT's appointment system began experiencing sustained high volume demand. The result in a statutory deadline that many newcomers simply cannot meet despite every intention to comply. So, Mr. Speaker, we all know the stories, families waiting weeks for an appointment, new residents juggling work orientation, school enrollment for their children, housing searches, and transportation needs, all while trying to remain in compliance with a system that is struggling to meet demand. It is not that they do not want to follow the law. It is that the law, as written, gives them a timeline that does not match the capacity of our current system. Bill number 165-38 makes a simple but powerful correction, extending the lawful operating period from 30 days to 90 days. This change does not weaken safety standards, alter eligibility criteria, or diminish DRT's authority to verify credentials. What it does is bring the law into alignment with operational reality. It provides adequate time for drivers to schedule appointments, gather necessary documentation, and complete the licensing process without being placed in technical violation because of system backlogs or scheduling delays. It also gives DRT the breathing room it needs to process transitions responsibly and efficiently. Mr. Speaker, just as importantly, this measure affirms something fundamental about the way we legislate. The responsiveness to community experience is not only appropriate, it is required. When residents tell us that a statutory deadline is unworkable, when agencies indicate that the implementation structure no longer fits current demand, it becomes our responsibility to recalibrate. Mr. Speaker, this bill is not sweeping, nor it is complicated. It is, however, timely, necessary, and reflective of responsible governance. It helps ensure that our statutes support, not hinder, the people who come to Guam ready to contribute. And it strengthens compliance by giving the public a fair and workable pathway. I respectfully ask my colleagues for their support as we consider Bill number 165-38 COR today. Undang Kalunsidus Masi.
You're very welcome, ma'am. On the bill, gentleman from Talafofo, you recognize.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity this afternoon to provide brief remarks in support of Bill 165, and I thank the good author from Barrigada for proffering what I believe is a very practical policy proposal which arguably impacts quite a number of individuals, particularly our service members, federal contractors, and importantly, our college exchange students, which many I've had the privilege to be around since January of 2013. If approved, this measure provides some flexibility which other U.S. jurisdictions, including Texas and Illinois, already have in place for individuals possessing a valid out-of-state driver's license. I believe Kansas and New York, too, are part of that. Bill 165, with no objections from our Department of Revenue and Taxation, Bill 165 is positioned to provide our service members, federal contractors, those college students, and family members who might find themselves in a situation where staying on Guam beyond 30 days is necessary to help care for an elderly or seriously ill relative, or where their employer requires them to operate on island for a lengthy period of time. Mr. Speaker, together with another measure from earlier this term, which allows DRT to enter into reciprocity agreements with certain foreign countries, Bill 165, if approved, is really designed to remove some of those barriers that are prevented or otherwise made it unnecessarily challenging for temporary residents to assimilate into our community through education, employment, or family-related activities. It's for these reasons, Mr. Speaker, that I rise in full support of the bill, and I commend the author for putting forward with what I believe is a responsible policy proposal, especially at a time when Guam should be strengthening the delivery of public services for long-term and transient residents alike. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're very welcome. On the bill, Gentlelady from Tumuning, ma'am, you're recognized.
Sujus Masi, Mr. Speaker, and I too stand in full support of Bill 165-38 that was sent to my committee for review. It was one of the fastest public hearings that we had. We were so grateful for that. I think it was a long day that day, but yeah, this, I believe, wins as far as like as quick as possible, because again, you know, DRT, we made sure we did our due diligence, putting out information, inviting certain individuals to come and testify, not only DRT, but I believe we also had individuals coming to, I'm trying to remember the other ones that we had asked, everything, even the military, you know, to provide them to come and testify. And I believe we had some car rentals as well to come and testify. Unfortunately, they didn't show up, but we did have DRT, so I was very happy that they came with no objections at all. And really, the markup in this bill was just technical. Other than that, there was nothing else other than just, you know, the numbering system. But yep, so I stand in full support. I think this is a good bill. It allows that flexibility that's needed that a previous speaker was speaking on. And I appreciate the opportunity to stand in full support. Thank you.
Thank you. On the bill, are there any senators wishing to speak on the bill? Any senators wishing to speak on the bill? Gentlelady from Jonia, ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I understand the effort of this bill is to relieve the lines at the Revenue and Taxation, Department of Motor Vehicles. And so those who are working in Guam or moving to Guam can go beyond 30 days with their out-of-state driver's license and continue to drive on the roads. But if I heard correctly, only 2 other states do this, and all the other states pretty much follow the 30 days, and you need to get a new driver's license. If the author or the committee chair could clarify.
Would the author or the committee chair yield to the question? Can you repeat the question, ma'am?
Sure. How many other states are allowing a person from out of state to use their driver's license for longer than 30 days?
The question is, other than 2 other states, what other states, how many states require a renewal of license or a change of license after 30 days? Either one of you.
Thank you for that question. Other states that use more than 30 days is Hawaii, Texas, Washington State, even Sinai also uses it beyond 30 days. So for Hawaii, it's a local license within 90 days. With Texas, requires formal residency established to 90 days. Washington State is 1 year period applies to non-residents. And with Sinamay, I'll just throw in Sinamay here, 60-day limit is shorter, yeah. I hope it answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to figure out why so few of them do that. Besides, they can get the fees faster when they require it within 30 days. That means they're going to be getting fees for these new driver's licenses. I think also it has to do with residency, because keeping track of who are the residences of their area, their states, and in our and of Guam, and how soon are we going to know how many additional residents we have, or things like that, or if they are complying with the other laws of Guam. So I'm not the expert on this topic, so I don't really know. I didn't research it, but yeah, I am just a little bit. Convenience is one thing, right, for rev and tax and for those, but if we are going to be giving up revenue, revenue and taxation said they didn't object, but they didn't give us any testimony either that this is actually going to relieve the lines. We're just pushing it down the road, and I don't know how the same amount of people supposedly need to do that unless we have contractors here for less than 90 days, if that's the goal. That was never really discussed. There was no testimony from any public safety agency objecting to this either. And I would think that they are the ones also who want to have records of who the drivers are when they look them up. But they didn't testify, so I really don't know if there's any concerns there. So in the absence of any concerns, I support this bill. And I hope it will alleviate the lines at revenue and taxation, but again, they have not made it clear to us how this will alleviate their lines. They said their lines are being caused by the absence or the lack of a coherent software, computer company that manages. They do this all through a certain company, and their access to that company, their expertise in this, using this software, all of that is really what is driving the long lines. So I'm all in favor of let's find a solution for these long lines, and I hope this will help. But I feel like we're pushing the same amount of people just down the line, and we'll still have the same amount of people applying. We'll get our revenues later. We'll be keeping records of those people later than we normally do. GPD will not have those records. And again, but we'll hope for the best. And I do hope that revenue and taxation says that this will alleviate their lines. Titus Masi, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. On the bill, gentleman from EPAN, sir, you're recognized.
Titus Masi, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on the bill here today. I also agree with the retiring speaker. I don't see how it's going to reduce the lines at the Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Revenue and Taxation. What I do think the bill will accomplish, though, is, people coming from the states are going to get a 90-day pass, and it's going to be all of us locals stuck waiting in those lines. And so I couldn't help but just put on my devil's advocate hat, Mr. Speaker, and wonder why, in some ways, we're enabling this type of service to the people of Guam. I mean, do we need to send a fact-finding team to the CNMI to find out how they can do it in 60 days, but we're telling our people we have 90, we need 90 days to do it? States that do 90 days, I think it's about 6 different states from what I found. And so there are states that go above 30 days, Mr. Speaker, but I want to associate myself with a lot of the concerns brought up by the retiring speaker. And, if the intent of the bill is to improve the services of the Department of Revenue and Taxation, I mean, maybe we shouldn't have cut the BPT and, expect these agencies to do more with the same amount of money or less. That's probably a better solution, is supporting these agencies and giving them the funding so they can get the manpower, the resources, or the computer software system that they need to get our people in and out of that DRT facility in Barrigada. So I'm still deciding on the bill, Mr. Speaker. It's, we've had a bunch of these different bills that deal with the off-island driver's licenses in the last few sessions. So I also worry that the message we're sending, we're going from 30 days to 90 days. I don't know if I'm some young service member coming to Guam that kind of tells me it's not really a priority to switch my license over, So these are just the things that I'm thinking in my head, Mr. Speaker. And so I thank you for the opportunity to speak on the bill. Si Dios masi.
You're very welcome. On the bill. On the bill. Any other senator wishing to speak on the bill? Gentlelady from Barrigada, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in looking at the bill, upon first glance, it seems like a good bill to support. But in thinking about it a little further, there's an opportunity for potential abuse. For one thing, it relies on the honor system. And so we rely on those that come here to actually keep track of when they arrived on Guam and to be able to apply for a license within 30 days currently. What this bill proposes is that it extends it to 90 days. And so I think we have a lack of information to see how this honor system has worked for us and how much abuse is happening with the current law. And so I guess my concern is that, as far as keeping track of who's coming in, who's leaving, that is a concern, when we talk about, for instance, like human trafficking, for instance. They're invisible, right? They're invisible, and now allowing this an extension kind of gives more leeway to that. And so it's just my concern whether we are able to track those that are coming in and how well this honor system is working. I did have an amendment. I know it's actually I had two amendments, but one I sent earlier before the opening of the bill. The other one I think might have been a little bit, helped to address some of those concerns that I had. The amendment that I submitted basically would have just required a simple electronic or in-person notification that this person has arrived. We know DRT has successfully implemented their online driver's license, and I think more and more people are turning to that. I think using the technology to allow for this, as well as to ensure that we're tracking those that are coming into Guam. So that is the amendment that I sent in. I don't know if the clerks was able to see it.
How many amendments did you have? Just one? Let's take a minute recess. back from recess, but then we're going to go back into recess because the AV needs to reset, okay? When we reset, dispose of that, and then we'll take a break for the night, okay?